Hi, let's take a moment and talk about this very important technique called vibrato. It's probably one of the most important foundations of blues and rock and roll guitar. Actually, having a bad vibrato technique can lead your listeners to think that you're a bad guitar player in general. It's that critical. And your vibrato says a lot about where you stand as a player. It's a statement, and it shows your personality, and it's almost like your fingerprint. And I personally spent a lot of time, working on my own vibrato. Paul Koss of Angus Young, these guys, those were my benchmarks. And people don't often talk about Jimmy Page's vibrato, but if you listen to stuff like "Since I've Been Loving You," and it's a very tasty vibrato. You almost don't notice it is there. If you take it out, it sounds flat. It's not in your face like Paul Kossoff or Angus's vibrato, but it's very tasty. I like it a lot. But it's such a personal thing that you'll never be able to copy somebody else. It's always going to sound like you. My vibrato technique is all about my wrist movement. It's sort of like this. That's how basically I got my vibrato. It's a sort of circular movement. I put my thumb on the neck, that's my anchor. And basically, especially when you're using just the index finger, you can see it, right? So I'm anchoring my thumb right here and pulling the string. So it's just, even when I'm bending, right? It's all on the wrist, right? Can you see it? I see a lot of beginners trying to, starting with playing around with their vibrato, and you see them doing it like this. And it sounds... And the reason why it sounds a little strange is because if you break down the movement, they're going down, center, then up, then center, then down again, center, up. So it's like bend, release, bend, release, bend, release. So from one movement, they're actually going into two different motions, So it sounds twice as fast as they're actually moving their hands. That's what's happening, right? So making it faster, it sounds like this. It's way too fast. That's why it sounds weird. It's better, in my opinion, to pick one direction and commit to it, and either up or down. I tend to go down most of the time, except for the high E string where, I have to go up because I have no room. So... But either way is fine. Just make sure pick one direction and commit to it. Down or up, right? So in this case, I'm going, bend, release, bend, release. Single movement for each bend, right? Compared to right? Can you hear the difference, right? So that's why picking just one direction is more practical, right? that will make it sound a lot better. Because you're always coming back to that center pitch. You always want to come back to that target note, right? And if you're going both directions, you're going to sound like... You're not putting that pitch in evidence, which is your target pitch. So this is the most important thing, the target pitch, where you're always coming back to that note, right? Which is the note that's in tune. And you can't, just bend and this also sounds bad. You have to come back to the target note, right? So you also have to train your ear to get that right, because especially if you're bending. For example, a one-step bend. This is your target note. You always have to come back to that target note. Even if you're going really fast. Because, for example, if you overshoot it, it sounds bad as well. See? You have to train your ear to be able to get to that note and stop there, right? That's what's happening. And especially when I'm bending, I like to first get to that target note and then start to vibrate the vibrato, right? So bend, target note, vibrato. That's usually how it works in my head, right? For example, and also sometimes when I really want to dig in, I even use my whole arm as a leverage. So can you see the movement stretches all the way to my elbow almost? Right? So it's a very physical thing. So basically by using your whole arm as a leverage, you're getting more strength on your wrist. So you can go even faster. So if you want to get that really, really aggressive vibrato, I really suggest using your whole arm, as sort of leverage. Now there's the matter of how much you actually bend, because the guys from the 60s and 70s, they usually like the more subtle, not as wide, you're not varying the pitch as much. It's less than a half step usually. It's very subtle. I like that type of vibrato. It's more. But then, for example, if you look at guys like Doug Aldrich, is the one that comes to mind, and Steve Lukather, and they like a slightly wider vibrato. So. And for example, Angus's vibrato is not as wide, Sometimes he does that, but usually, if you listen to most of his work, it's less than a half step. But it sounds like it's more because it's really fast, but it's not that wide, Right? Compared to, for example, that's more of a 80s thing, right? For example. Right? right? It's really wider. It's more, it's different, but it's cool as well. So, and that's something to be aware of. And there are guys like, you know, so if they're playing something smoother, they may go for the sort of circular movement. There's that method as well, which is I only advise you to use this when you want to be very subtle. You gotta have a lot of control because it can bend too much as well. It doesn't sound good, but that's just the baseline, and you have to work on the rest yourself. I hope it helps a little bit, and till next time.